Hi, this is Goich. Welcome to the Doorway to the Word. Today's doorway is the brief history of Christianity, Episode 7, the Crusade. Well, in Episode 5, we talked about the Roman Catholic Church rose to the most supreme power and authority in Western Europe. While Roman Catholic Church was cementing the supremacy in Western Europe, something was happening in the East. Well, Byzantine Empire and the Orthodox Church, they are facing a new threat, Islamic countries. Well, among those Islamic countries, the country called Seljuk Turks, they began increasing their power and expanding their territory. And they began putting the pressures on Byzantine Empire, especially Jerusalem. And eventually, those Turks, they took Jerusalem. Well, Byzantine Empire at that time could not fend them off. So they asked Western Church for help. And in 1095, the Pope Urban II of the Roman Catholic Church, he called for the first crusade to repel the Turks and recapture the Jerusalem. Well, more than 70,000 people answered this call and went to the crusade. That was the beginning of the series of campaign of the crusade towards Jerusalem. There were about 10 major crusades occurred over the next 200 years or so. And I'm going to tell you the few famous ones, notable ones. Obviously, one of the notable ones is the first one. The first crusade, as I said, Urban II. Pope Urban II called for this crusade, and they actually won the battle and recovered Jerusalem. About 80 odd years later, in 1174, the Second Crusade happened. And this time, that crusade was led by the French and German armies. And they marched to the Holy Land, but they were defeated. In Third Crusade, which happened in 1187, this is the famous crusade that everybody might associate crusade with. You know that the film, The Kingdom of Heaven, that was based on this crusade. The Third Crusade occurred in 1187. The Arabic military leader, the Saladin, he led Muslim military campaign against the crusade, and they were occupying Jerusalem. Well, Pope Gregory VIII called for the new crusade, and this crusade was led by several kings in Europe, such as Philip II of France, the Richard I of England, the Lionheart, and Frederick I of Holy Roman Empire, and so on and so on. And they had many battles, the fierce battles and famous battles to capture the Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. And actually, the result was kind of draw. Well, 1202, the Fourth Crusade. This was a little odd one because it wasn't about the Battle of Jerusalem. This started by the Pope Innocent III. Actually, these crusaders were tricked by the Venetian merchant who were the rival at that time to the city of Constantinople. And crusaders are tricked to attack the Constantinople, which was the capital of Byzantine Empire, by the way, and it was a Christian capital. But those crusaders deceived and tricked, and they actually sacked Constantinople. At this sacking of Constantinople in 1204, the many important and valuable manuscripts regarding Christian history and all those things they burned and destroyed as well, and many people died. Well, another third crusade was called Children's Crusade, happened in around 1212. What happened was people are very enthusiastic about the cause for the kingdom of God to retake the Jerusalem. And that enthusiasm in the society brought those young people, that even the children, to be gathered and began to marching towards the Middle East. The sad thing was, those gathered children, especially from the France and Germany, it ended in disaster because bad people took them this opportunity, and many people died of starvation. They were shipwrecked, and also they were sold to slaveries. See, so sad thing happened. Many children died, and there are other crusades there, but they couldn't produce any notable result, or they ended in a defeat. So overall, this crusade campaign led by the church, actually, they were seen as a failure, big failure. The thing is, this failure of crusade that brought two major changes in Europe. The first change is kind of positive one, that this crusade that brought the development of the trade route. Well, that route that the Crusader took became a major trade route, and it brought significant development to the surrounding towns and cities. For example, the Venice, the Genoa, the Milan, the Florence, the Hamburg, and many other big famous cities actually developed at this point because it became a trade route, major trade route. And actually those people, those cities, they formed the trade alliance and then organized the groups to protect their mutual profit. And that's the development of the city-states. Well, the second major change that influenced this crusade had in Europe was they influenced the effect on the Roman Catholic Church to begin losing their supremacy in Europe. You see, because this crusade was called by the church, said it was for the cause of God, and God will give you the victory in this campaign if you join, but actually ended in a defeat. Of course, overall, it wasn't that righteous cause anyway. Many, the selfish, the ambitions, the agenda was there. For example, the Fourth Crusade, it was totally the selfish ambition of the people, nothing to do with God's cause. But anyway, because of this, the trust and credibility of the Roman Catholic Church over people in Europe, especially the nobilities, the secular rulers, they just kind of diminished. And this was actually the beginning of the declining of the supremacy of the Roman Catholic Church. One of the notable episodes to illustrate this happened in about 1303. It's called Outrage of Anani. Well, it was started with a dispute between the Pope Boniface VIII and Philip IV of France over taxation on churches. Well, because those military campaigns and crusade, they cost. So financially desperate King Philip IV of France began imposing a tax on churches in France. And remember, at that point in the Middle Age Europe, the churches have been exempted for the taxation. That's why they could accumulate big wealth. And no secular kings were allowed to tax them. But because Philip IV thought, well, the power and authority of the church is going down, what can they do to me? I'm going to tax them. I am desperate for the money. So he began taxing the church. Of course, this caused uproar among the Catholic churches and upset Pope Boniface VIII. And this led the Pope to issue the bull that forbidding the transference of any church property to the French crowns. So Pope said, nope, no French kings can get hands on church property and church wealth and assets. Okay. Also, in this, the Pope declared he actually issued official decree says Pope is much more superior than secular kings. Well, these decrees were imposed for the purpose to suppress the secular rulers such as King Philip IV. Well, with this decree, the King Philip enraged. He was angry, and he actually went to arrest and remove Boniface, the Pope, from his office in Rome, and he took him to France. It never happened such a things before. Do you remember the story of Road to Canossa? How Pope was powerful and spree? Well, at this point, French king actually kidnapped the Pope. Well, Boniface eventually managed to escape from France and then went back to Rome. But soon after he arrived to Rome, he died. And some said he was such angry, he had a stroke or heart attack and dropped dead. He died with anger. Well, after death of Boniface VIII, there wasn't a Pope, was it? So the French Archbishop, man called Bertrand de Goth, was elected as Pope Clement V. French king appointed the Archbishop to be the Pope of entire Catholic Church and set his office in France. And this is called the Babylonian captivity of papacy. It started 1309 and it went on until 76. During which, as I said, the official seat of papacy, that the place of Pope, was moved to Avignon in France, and it was guarded by the French territories surrounding it, and this Pope was subject to French control. Well, while Pope was in France, in Rome, where the Catholic Church, the base of the Catholic Church was, they elected new Pope, saying that French one isn't official. This is a proper one. So they elected a new Pope in 1378 in Rome and declared the papacy in France was illegitimate. Well, this was called Western Schism. There are actually two popes, one in France, one in Rome, at a point in Western Europe. And this separation and state of two popes went on until 1417. Also, this King Philip IV, he actually suppressed the Knights Templar. What does it mean by suppress? Means he arrested and even executed all those Knights Templar who were closely associated with Crusade. Actually, their popularity was very much in decline because of those failure of Crusade. And of course, Knights Templars, they had privileges such as non-tax duties and etc. Those things are gone. And King actually destroyed this Knights Templar and basically gained what they had, those wealth they accumulated over the years to pay the debt. Where the failure of Crusade and subsequent incidents led the decline of the once the most supreme authority in Europe, the Catholic Church, in Middle Age Europe. You see, Church, mind you, remained still wealthy, had a lot of land, still, had the power and authority over people's mind and spirituality, and many people already believed in Christianity and churches. So they were still wealthy, but their political influence and authority began declining. And this will eventually lead to the major change in Christianity in Europe. We're going to talk about that in next few episodes. Well, until then, God bless. Goodbye.